Opposing Viewpoints. I'm Tatum Everett, and it's Steelers week. The Vikings return home to US Bank Stadium for a primetime Thursday night football game. And to help me break down today's viewpoint of the Vikings is team reporter Eric Smith. And Eric, this is going to be a tough game. It's a short week, and it feels a little weird to be here on the studio this early in the week.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what day it is. I think it's Tuesday. But these Thursday night games are always kind of wacky and wild for players and coaches and for us. But here we are. We're ready to go. So let's get the show going.
And here to help us get ready for this Viking-Steeler matchup is NFL Network reporter Aditi Kinkhabwala, joining us via Microsoft Teams. Aditi, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. But you're right. You know, Eric's totally right. It is a little bit confusing. What day of the week is it? I'm not quite sure.
I know. Thursday night games are always silly, especially when you come off of such emotionally charged games like the Steelers, like the Vikings. But the Steelers coming off a nice win against the Ravens. What's their mindset as they try and turn this thing around for Thursday's game?
You know, Tatum, it's so interesting you say that because Ravens-Steelers is known as really, I mean, I would argue it's the most physical matchup in the entire National Football League. It is my favorite rivalry for sure. And Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin was asked about this, that is it really hard to turn around so quickly, especially after that matchup? But Tomlin, who used to be in Minnesota, said, no, I remember what the NFC North is like too, and the Vikings just played a really, really tough physical rivalry game as well against the Lions, so he refused to use that as an excuse in any way. As for the Steelers, well, TJ Watt told me Sunday he hopes that this is a win that gets them back on the tracks. We'll see, because the Steelers have certainly been awfully inconsistent, and a couple inches go differently on Sunday, and the Steelers don't have that win. So it's really hard to sit here and say, okay, we need a team that is ready to be on the rise right now.
Yeah, Aditi, you mentioned the word inconsistent. We probably have used that word to describe the Vikings every week on the show. And it was the case again Sunday, obviously against the Lions. A bad first half, a better second half, a bad final drive. It all added up to Detroit's first win of the season and a very tough loss for the Vikings. So the Vikings somehow have to turn the page. I mean, a short week, maybe that's good. They can get this Lions loss out of their mouth quickly with Pittsburgh coming to town. But no doubt, a disappointing loss, and the Vikings now sit at 5-7.
Yeah, a lot of short memories here at our practice facility this week. And this feels like the Steelers offense has turned a corner. Ben Roethlisberger reports saying this is his swan song. Is Big Ben peaking at the right time, though, Aditi?
Again, such a difficult thing to answer because, look, through the first three quarters on Sunday, the Steelers' offense accounted for 3 points. It was horrible. I was messaging my husband saying this is like watching paint dry. And then you come to the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, Ben Roethlisberger is on fire. He's leading a field goal drive. He's throwing for 2 touchdowns. He has a perfect passer rating. The Steelers seem to be able to run the ball and do exactly what it is they want to do. So now, is there momentum off of what happened in the fourth quarter? What was really notable is that they went to a lot of no huddle, what Roethlisberger likes to call the muddle huddle. It's not a true no huddle, but it's kind of a hurry up offense. They were out of the shotgun. They were out of the pistol. That was working really, really well for them. So on a short week where you maybe don't have as much time to game plan and install, is that what the Steelers do? You know, a conversation a year ago was how Ben Roethlisberger was drawing plays up in the dirt. It was almost like backyard football to some degree. Roethlisberger, after 18 years, kind of seeing what he sees and then calling the plays out. Do we see more of that on Thursday? I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if that is indeed the case.
Yeah, Aditi, when we talk about Big Ben, a guy that knows him well is actually Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer, who obviously used to be in the AFC North with Cincinnati for all those years. Zimmer talked about Big Ben, this week and said he's still a great player after 18 seasons, but the focus for Minnesota's defense is an area that's been inconsistent all season, and that's the final 2 minutes, whether we're talking about the first half or the second half. The Vikings have allowed 101 total points in the final 2 minutes of either half this season, and they've only given up 308 points all season, so a third of their points is coming in that 4-minute stretch. And it cost the team games, honestly. It cost the team the game Sunday against the Lions. So That area has to be better. The team has practiced it. The team has condensed the playbook to try and shrink it down and make it as simple as possible. The team has talked about it. They've done everything they can pretty much do except just execute really when it matters most. And as we've talked about before, the Vikings, have really struggled a lot. And if they can just get that done, get that done in the final 2 minutes, perhaps they can find a way to get a win.
Aditi, the Steelers. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in and say that that's so interesting because Mike Tomlin actually said that when you have a super short week, what you focus on is situational football. And so exactly as you're saying, that situational football is in your final 2 minutes or your 2-minute drill or whatever that is. But I'll tell you something else that I think is really interesting is how vulnerable the Vikings run defense has been. And the Steelers run game has, since we're talking about inconsistency, it's been good with their first-round rookie, Najee Harris, of course. It's been not so great with an offensive line that's been rebuilt. I am very curious to see, even as Ben Roethlisberger is kind of running the show, are the Steelers able to establish the run?
All right, Aditi, well, let's talk about the Steelers' defense because they were looking really good in this game against the Ravens. 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson, and a lot of that has to do with the return of T.J. Watt, who was injured in the previous 2 games.
Well, T.J. Watt had a COVID diagnosis. And so
you're right. My bad.
Out, and the poor guy, was waiting to get his negative COVID test. He said that he was running in his backyard around the trees, which isn't necessarily the same as practice, but he was a man of fire on Sunday afternoon. 12 quarterback pressures, 3.5 sacks. I mean, he's the one that forced Lamar Jackson into a terrible interception with his pressure. And then he also, that final 2-point conversion attempt where Lamar Jackson is thrown to a wide open Mark Andrews. It's TJ Watt that Lamar Jackson said TJ is wider than him and taller than him. And it was TJ that essentially threw that pass off by just a couple inches, which kept Mark Andrews from catching it and allowing the Ravens to win that game. So TJ Watt right now is no question playing like a defensive player of the year. He arguably could even be garnering some MVP votes. He is that valuable to the Steelers and what the Steelers want to do. But again, this is where I come to you, Eric. It doesn't feel like Kirk Cousins has been sacked much. It doesn't feel like he makes many mistakes, and it doesn't feel like he's been under pressure, under duress, really. So that for sure is interesting to see if the Steelers can get him off his game a little bit.
Yeah, TJ Watt, I think, would be in the Viking focus no matter what was going on. But when you consider that Minnesota is actually kind of working with a shuffled up offensive line right now, that makes it even more of a point of emphasis to keep Watt contained. Christian Darrisaw, the Vikings rookie left tackle, didn't practice for most of this week, really at all with an ankle injury. It looks like he's probably going to be out Thursday against Pittsburgh. That means Minnesota is going to go back to the offensive line they had against Detroit. And that wasn't like anything we've really seen all season. They mixed and matched all over. Obviously, Ezra Cleveland at left guard and Brian O'Neill at right tackle, they stayed where they are. But Garrett Bradbury came back into the starting lineup at center, and Mason Cole, who had been the center for 4 games, shifted over to right guard. The biggest change, obviously, was that Oli Udoh went from right guard to left tackle, a position he has not played in the NFL. So a whole lot of mixing and matching, and if that's the case again, that unit will be up for a tough task against TJ Watt. But the Vikings offensive line is always in focus here, and especially when there's moving parts. So we'll see how they do on a short week against a very good Pittsburgh front that is led by Watt.
Yeah, the short week being such total focus for everyone. But right now on Opposing Viewpoints, we're focused on hearing your hot takes. It's that time. It's hot take. Well, it used to be Hot Take Thursday, but obviously with the game this week, it's not going to be. But Aditi, what is your hot take for this Vikings-Steelers game?
I don't know what my hot take is. Yikes, what's a hot take?
I think we had something. I think you gave us a clue a little earlier that maybe Najee Harris would have a pretty big day.
I feel like that's a good idea. Again, as I said a little bit earlier, the Vikings run defense hasn't been particularly good. I think that on a short week, it's always nice to ride your run game. And I think that Najee Harris is due. And the Steelers also pulled out, they played their 5th left guard on Sunday, and he pushed some people around. Yeah, let's go with Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris, who a few weeks ago gave me hand warmers at practice as I was freezing. I love the backs there's a random aside, but I love the backs in the AFC North. Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, they are two of my favorite backs. I mean, they are my two favorite backs. But Najee Harris gave me hand warmers, and I jokingly said that he is now my favorite running back. So yeah, he's due a big game. I like that.
I absolutely can't agree with you more on that since it's been snowing all day today and I need those hand warmers as well. Maybe he'll give me some when he comes to take a visit. Eric, what's your hot take for this game?
All right, I've got to get back on track, actually. I've been a little cold here with my hot takes, but I'm going to go with the Vikings will intercept Ben Roethlisberger at least one time. And that is actually rare because Big Ben has only thrown, I think, 6 interceptions all season. But if you look at the split of wins, or I guess in Pittsburgh case, a tie and then losses, whether or not he throws one is important. So when Pittsburgh has won or tied, he is, I think, it's a 9-0 touchdown interception ratio. He has not thrown an interception when the Pittsburgh Steelers don't lose. And when they do lose, he has thrown 7 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So that's a long way of saying that all of his interceptions have come during a loss. So if the Vikings can get at least one on Thursday night, that could be a winning formula to obviously get a victory.
Eric, I almost feel like you're jumping a little ahead of us, though, because we do this next segment where we have you finish this sentence. We'll get to Eric's in just a second. But Aditi, it's a big game on Thursday night, and so we'll have you finish the sentence. The Steelers win if?
The Steelers win if the front can indeed get pressure, if the defense can play as the defense has played when it plays well. So as it played on Sunday or as it played prior to the 2-game slide before that. If the Steelers defense plays as it is capable of, then I believe the Vikings are missing some key ingredients, and the Steelers could indeed win this game.
All right, Eric, the Vikings win if?
Yeah, it's pretty much the opposite of what Aditi said. The Vikings win if they can slow down T.J. Watt and the rest of the monsters that the Steelers have on defense. We know that Kirk Cousins is probably one of the NFL's best quarterbacks when he's not under pressure, when he has a clean pocket, when he's able to sit back and throw the ball around. Adam Thielen is probably going to be out for this game with that ankle injury, and we talked about the shuffled up and new look offensive line. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Vikings offense to score points and play well at home and in front of their home crowd. But obviously stopping T.J. Watt should be priority number one. If they can do that and get the offense in rhythm, hopefully by the end of the game, which, hey, it's probably going to be close again, then hopefully Minnesota can end up ahead on the scoreboard.
Yes, these are two teams that are no strangers to those close finishes. Heart attack city, it feels like so far. But thank you so much to NFL Network reporter Aditi Kinkhabwala for being here today on Opposing Viewpoints. Aditi, thank you so much for your insight.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Of course. We appreciate your work. You can catch her on NFL Network really all the time. I feel like you're on there all the time. We love seeing you on there. So thank you so much again for being here. And thank you to Vikings team reporter Eric Smith. I'm Tatum Everett, and that was Opposing Viewpoints.